Hey everyone. So I want to take you back to a moment many years ago. I'm not going to tell you how many years, some years ago. The score was 14-14. And I had just made the comeback of my life. I was down 14-9. And I was feeling the pressure. Who's ever been in that moment? You're like, things are going well, but that pressure is mounting. Been there? I was there. It was a big tournament for me. It was an opportunity to get into the top 8 of a Div 1 competition. The first time for me that I'd ever had that opportunity, but I'd ever been in that bout. And it would have been an amazing result to make. But we'll come back to that in a moment. What I want to talk about today, or what we're here to talk about, is expectations versus reality. What happens when those things are too far apart, and how to bring them back together. There's this experience that I've seen many fencers have, that I have, I've worked with fencers who have had this experience, of having expectations for whatever reason that are not in line with their actual performance. Any of you had that happen in fencing and something else? Going expecting one thing, you're gonna make a beautiful cake, and well, you made a cake, but it wasn't quite as beautiful as you thought, or you're gonna make top 8 and somehow that first E didn't go well. And there's a lot of ways that these expectations can come about. But when there is that discrepancy, it causes problems. We're gonna get back to that in a few minutes as well. But broadly, I'm going to share a little bit of my own experience in this dynamic of expectations versus not, and talk a little bit about some of these experiences I've seen, that people I've worked with, etc. What brings about that discrepancy, and most importantly, what you can do about it. Now, if any of you have heard anything I've said before, some of this is going to sound familiar. There's going to be some common ground we're going over again. Anybody been to one of my presentations last year, or been to a clinic with me or anything like that? Raise your hand. Oh my goodness, a beautiful, fresh audience. So, great. To go back to that particular competition, as I said, I had never been at that place where I was fencing for the top 8 before. And it was a very good season for me. I had been training for several years. I was trying to make the junior national team. I was working very hard for that. And that competition, I didn't go in thinking about a result that I might make. In fact, what I did, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure how I managed it, but throughout the competition, I was very focused on my fencing from moment to moment. The first DE I fenced, I was, for me, incredibly patient. Took all 3 periods and won very comfortably, 15-3. Not because I was doing crazy actions, but because I was willing to really stay focused in the moment. Easier said than done, but we'll come to that and how to get back to the moment a little bit later on. Going to talk about another competition I had much more recently. 2 years ago, I had taken a break from fencing. I had come back. I had found that all the kids I used to beat easily were now beating me. It was deeply unsettling. And I had to work through a lot of insecurities. I went to various NACs over the years after coming back, and I got some good results. I got a couple opportunities to get into that top 8 again, and I didn't make it. And then in the summer of 2022, I had a really important conversation with myself where I said, Corwin, you have wanted to go to the Olympics for your whole life, but you're not getting closer. And you are getting older, and you're just getting unhappy about it. So I released that and I refocused on a goal, a little bit lower, but still a goal, right? I said, I want to get back on the travel team. I want to go to World Cups. And so I went into this competition, it was the October NAC in 2022, with a completely different outlook. I said, why am I fencing? It's not for this incredibly lofty goal. There's this thing I'd like to do. I've been to World Cups before. I can do that. But even more so, I want to enjoy the process. So my entire focus for that competition was making sure that I was going to enjoy everything I was doing. I was going to eat somewhere that I wanted to eat. I was going to pick things to do when I wasn't fencing that I wanted to do. And yeah, I was going to take time to prepare for the competition. But the competition wasn't like the sword hanging over, the sword of Damocles hanging over you with a thread. It wasn't that. It wasn't like, oh my God, at any moment this might hit me. It was like, all right, that's going to come and I'm going to enjoy it. Whatever happens. If I go out first round, I'm going to have a good time. And in that competition, I again found myself fencing for the top 8. After several good bouts in a row, feeling very good. And this time was a little bit different. I didn't feel that pressure. I did feel a lot of confidence against the fencer I was fencing. But we'll come back to that in a moment again. I want to finish a story from before. So in that moment, back in my last year in junior, many years ago, 14-14, the pressure's mounting, and I feel myself go just a little, not quite at the right moment. And yet, I landed in my lunge and I fell. And when I looked up, the referee's hand was up on my side. I don't know how I hit that touch, but somehow I got it. And I went on to win the next bout, and I got top 4, actually. I got 3rd place at that NAC. And it was incredible. But I had never planned to get that far. I was only going moment by moment. What do I do next? What do I do now? And the same thing in 2022. In 2022. Sorry, numbers are a little hard when I'm thinking about other things. And once again, I made it into the top 8. I made it into the top 4. It was a phenomenal result. My second time in my life. And I did it, I'm entirely convinced, I was training hard, I was working, I was focused, and I had completely released any expectations I had around this competition. Which again, easier said than done. I've seen many fencers who go in knowing that they're well trained, knowing that they're in good shape, and they think, okay, that means I'm going to get a good result. And unfortunately, it's not that simple. It's not that clear. For one thing, that expectation leads to pressure. That leads to tension. Anybody felt this? You go to a competition, I'm going to do well. Oh, okay, now it's some pressure. Now I feel a little tense. And then suddenly, everything's a little blocky. Everything's a little chunky. No, there's no smooth, easy movement. Anybody have that experience? Or seen a fencer do that? It's not great. So there's this internal felt sense of like, I feel good. I think I'm a good fencer. I'm going to go get a good result. And then there's the external, the coach saying, well, you're technically good. You do very well in lessons. You have so much of whatever it is. You're talented. You're this, you're that. And that can also create an expectation. Oh, I'm going to go to this competition and I'm going to have this good result. I was many years fencing before I realized half of the people lose in the first round. And then half of those people lose in the next round. And these days in the junior competitions, they've gotten so big that almost half of the people don't even make it to the first DE. When I was fencing juniors, if you won 2 bouts in your pool, you were almost certainly going to make it. So it's hard. It's hard right now. And the reality is that there's very few people in a competition that end up getting a result they want. The vast majority don't. Which is not to say, hey, just get ready to be disappointed. It's to say, we have to focus on something besides the result. We have to look at something besides that outcome that's fully outside of our control. And this is when it comes back to the process, the moment, what do we do from moment to moment? In my case, that's check my notes to make sure I have the right next thing. So we're gonna, when we get to the what do you do, because I realized I did not introduce myself at any point in this. My name is Corwin Duncan. I am a mental skills coach. I was hoping to have my logo up on the screen. It did not happen. I am not a tech genius. I'm a mental skills coach. So there you go. I say mental skills coach because what I teach, what I offer are specific techniques you can use in moments of stress, in moments when you're unfocused, in moments when you're watching your kid and it's 14-13 they're ahead, and then it's 14-14 and you just want to jump out of your skin and your heart's pounding, and you can take a deep breath and feel the tiniest bit more able to get through that. I'm not a parent, but I have had the opportunity to watch some of my clients win 15-14 bouts. In fact, one of my clients won 3 15-14 bouts in a row to get to number 1 in Div 1 on Sunday, and I almost had a heart attack in the process. So I'm going to take a minute and talk about what happens when expectations and reality are different. Ideally, we want, I don't know why it needs to be a graph, but we have axes. We want our reality to go up, and we want our expectations. Actually, let me ask you, where should your expectations be in terms of, if your best result is top 8 at an ACK, what do you want your expectation to be going into your next competition? Top 8? Raise your hand if you think it's top 8. Thank you so much for participating. You are wrong, right? If this is your peak, if fencing, results, everything, up and down, right? If you get to this point, you're probably not going to be there immediately after that. Now, hopefully you're going to get back there at some point, but not because you are expecting this. If you expect this, then this is what happens. This is your expectation, and this is your reality. And every bit of distance between those two things is anxiety. Anybody had that experience? You felt your expectations getting higher? Just getting more and more anxious? Raise your hand if you ever had that happen or seen that happen. Yeah. I absolutely have. That last season of mine was a very good one. The season prior, almost no result at all. I had gotten 3rd at JOs. I had won nationals at that point. So I went into my second year of juniors. My first year of juniors, I made top 8 at a World Cup. My second year of juniors, I was like, now I'm going to really make the team. And I couldn't put up a result to save my life. Until I completely gave up. And I said, okay, I'm not even going to JOs. And 2 weeks before, it was driving distance. I was like, no, it was 2 days before. I was like, okay, maybe I will go to JOs. And with no preparation, with no training, and with no investment, I got 2nd place. Because there was none of this happening. There was no, I expect this, but this is my reality. Instead, we had expectations stayed below my reality. Where we want the expectations to be is in what we can control. I know I can warm up. Anybody feel confident they can do a good warm-up? Anybody feel that same certainty you're going to win your first pool bout? Love the confidence. But you should probably be more confident in your warm-up than in your pools, because you might not win. You might, like I did a few days ago, get a former world number 1 in your pool. It wasn't my first bout, but I can't control that outcome. I can control what I do right before that bout. Do I sit and go, got a fence, former world number 1, Sergey Bida? Or do I run around and release a bit of energy? Do I do some of my own breathing exercises? If you can't tell from this is upside down, so I can remember. Oh, breathe in, breathe out. But remember that. Breathe in again, and out. We're gonna do it more later. It's like an extra deep breath. It's even better. So, real quick quiz. What is the green line here? Your reality. What is the red line? And this one is a very easy one, assuming my handwriting is legible. What happens when your expectations go above your reality? And the more that difference is, the more that anxiety is, the more that pressure, the more that what? Because at that point, your expectation is actually, that's kind of, we don't need this. Expectation is kind of the wrong word there. Any guesses what word might be better to express your idea of how well you could do, but you're not? Hope, prediction.
Fantasy goal.
There we go. That's exactly it. This is a fantasy. It's nice. It's pleasant. If you can stay there. But when your fantasy conflicts with your reality and somebody is trying to hit you, you gotta come back to reality pretty quick. So having this idea of, yeah, I can make top 8, I could win this competition, or I can make it out of pools, which is tough in some of these competitions. Great to have that hope, but be very clear. You do need this actually. That's there, not here. What's here? What is this line? Anybody, any guesses? Where do you want that line to be? What do you want to be at that line?
Your baseline of what you can do.
Your baseline of what you can do and what you can guarantee. Which is what? What can you guarantee in these situations?
That you're there.
That you're there. Bottom line, that you're there. You do a good warm-up. You have your equipment working. You go to bed the night before. Can you guarantee you're going to get a good night of sleep? Nope. But you can be in bed. And that's all you can do. There's a great term that I learned from the book Why We Sleep, which is sleep opportunity. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you gave your body and your mind the option. This line, the bottom of your performance, is just, I took care of the things I can take care of. I got Gatorade the night before, I got water the night before. I had a plan for my day. If you don't have a structure for a plan, I do. I know what my priorities are. I know what I can control. And this line, if you do all that, is going to be a lot higher than if you just think about, maybe I can win. a lot of fencers aren't disappointed that their best results are not as good as they want. Sure, that happens and that is disappointing. But most fencers I've spoken to are disappointed that their worst results are so much worse than they want. And even more so, their fencing is worse than they want. Anybody heard that from their fencer, or felt that, or heard that from a friend, or said that? Well, the result was bad, but my fencing was terrible. Or, yeah, well, the result was bad, but my fencing was pretty good. I just ran into Sergey Bita pretty early on. There are uncontrollables, right? But the more we focus on the things you can control, the more you will be able to keep the worst of your fencing better. And even some days I had a client, work together for some number of weeks, and he went to a competition, Capital Clash. Anybody been to that one? Yeah, it's a big one. And he got a really good result the first day that he competed for him. And the second day did not get a good result. I was like, well, what happened? He's like, oh, the fire alarm went off in the hotel for an hour in the middle of the night. I'm like, all right, well, you still did your best. Like, you still followed your process. You showed up. When you were fencing, you're just like, okay, I guess whoops. There's not much you can do about that. I can't fence on no sleep. So, when your expectation is too far away from your reality, what do we call that? Living in a amazing A+ students. Or maybe I'm just a really good teacher. So, what are some things we can do about this? This is participatory. I'm looking for
lower expectations.
How? How though? How do we lower expectations? Yeah.
I was gonna say separate what I can control from what I can't control, and think about write lists for those.
Yes, literally that. That's one of the things I do with my clients. Not first thing, because we got some other bases to cover first. But a few weeks in, I'll go. What are some things you can control? What are some things you cannot? Well, I can control my fencing. Nope. I can control my thoughts. Actually, no, or nobody would come to me. You can control what you do between touches. You can control your warm-up. You can control your equipment right up until you get onto the strip, and then if it breaks, that's just a thing that you got to deal with. So yes, separating what you can and cannot control, getting that very clear. Oh, the referee made a bad call. Out of my control. I came up against a really good fencer who I have trouble with. That's out of my control. What else? What else can we do? Yeah, please.
How we respond to those moments.
How we respond to those moments. So this is a very interesting one because I'm loving this whiteboard. On the spectrum of, I'm going to go with a different color for this one. We're going to take off some of this stuff. We don't want to get too messy. On the spectrum of can to cannot control, how you respond is not here, and it's not here, it's closer to the middle, right? Warm up, over here. Opponent, over here. I did really good in pools on Sunday, and I have one of the best fencers, and worst for me to fence was my first EE. I was so sad. He ended up getting top 8. I did not win that bout, of course. So how you respond is very important, and you can very much influence it and sometimes control it. But when you want to get better at doing a difficult thing, what do you got to do? I hear the susurration of people whispering the answer. Yeah, you got to practice. You got to practice in the hardest, most strenuous moments? Question mark? No. Hear the silent shaking of heads? No, you got to practice when it's easy and progressively do it in more challenging situations. So, an example of this again with my clients, we practice skills every session. And then I'm like, all right, now take those skills, use them in practice. And then use them in competitions. And sometimes it takes 4 months for, when they come in for a session. Every week for 4 months we've been meeting. Did you use that skill at a competition? I forgot. Well, I used it once. Once per touch, you mean, right? 4 months in, did you use it? Yeah, I used it. It really helped. You think? And I understand it's a process. No worries. That's why we practice for months. But you gotta practice your mental skills. It's a big thing for me. If you couldn't tell. All right. Speaking of, what else can you do? Give me one more thing you can do to get your expectations out of that fantasy realm and into that reality in line with what you can do and what you can control. One more thought. There's so many brilliant, creative people here. Come on.
Stay hydrated.
This is a good one, right? On this spectrum of can or cannot control things, where does stay hydrated fall? Can. I think I said something was here when I meant it. Anyway, can. You can control that one, right? And if you can't, it means you're getting really anxious or really nervous or really forgetting stuff, and you need to step back even more to the basics. So, we're going to practice some skills. Number one is what we're gonna do the whole core 4, the Sharpen Mind training core 4, my 4 basic skills that I think everyone should have. Yeah?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Yes.
All right. So first one is what I call a 5-second reset. Everybody do it with me. Use your hands. Ready? Breathe in. In again. And then out all the way. And do it again. 7 more times. In. In. Out. It makes a difference if you use your hands like I'm doing. In. In. Out. All the way out. In. In. Out. And if you feel self-conscious, I'm in front of everyone doing it. In. In. Out. In. In. Out. In. In. Out. One more. In. In. Out. And relax. Anyone feel different after doing that? I do. I might be the most nervous person here in this moment, but I definitely feel different. You will notice that more the more intense the moment is that you do it. Unless you get to the point where you're just like complete panic attack, overwhelmed. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm gonna lose. It might not help at that point. You gotta start early. All right. Next one is one of my all-time favorite these are all some of my favorite mental training skills. This is one of my first favorite mental training skills. It's called 3-minute mindfulness. Who's heard of this or done this or seen or heard me talk about this ever? Amazing. All right. Well, 3-minute mindfulness, you can immediately figure out it's 3 minutes long and it's a mindfulness exercise. So, mindfulness as in non-judgmental observation or awareness of the present moment. First minute, you'll bring your attention to your thoughts. Second minute to your breath. Third minute, any guesses? Your sensations in your body. While we're doing this, you're going to be sitting, hopefully, completely still eyes closed, reacting to nothing happening around you. And I will guide you through it. First of all, a very important step, make sure you're comfortable so you can sit without moving for 3 minutes. Ideally, with your back and your neck straight, your hands and arms in a kind of a neutral position. And when you've done that, take a nice deep breath. Bring your attention to your thoughts and close your eyes. Notice whatever is passing through your mind, observing without judgment, without any effort to change. You may find your thoughts are moving quickly, or they could be moving slowly. You could have many thoughts passing through your mind, or few. In any case, simply observe whatever is there, without judgment, without any effort to change. And move your attention now to your breath. Notice each breath as it comes in and as it goes out. As it comes in and as it goes out. You will find from time to time your attention wanders. This is perfectly normal. Your attention will always wander, and you can always bring it back to the breath. You can imagine your mind is like the sky. The thoughts come and go like clouds. But the sky remains unchanged. And move your attention to your body and whatever physical sensations you may be noticing in this moment. You might feel the clothes you are wearing or the chair you're sitting in. You might find there is tension somewhere in your body. You will find some sensations are stronger, bigger, easy to notice, and others are smaller, subtler, harder to notice. Give more of your attention to the smaller, subtler sensations. And simply observe without any effort to change. With another deep breath, let your eyes come open, come back to the room. Anybody feel different after that one? Anybody feel a little sleepy? Like maybe I shouldn't have done that one right in the middle of trying to keep everyone's attention. Oh well, hindsight 2020. The next one is 20 jumping jacks. No, I'm kidding. We're not doing jumping jacks. There's sometimes if I have a client who's like a little too sleepy, we will. Or maybe just if I'm too sleepy while I'm having a session. So, what did you notice as you were doing that?
Relax.
You were relaxed? Awesome. Yeah.
So you said observe without trying to change anything, but that's really hard not to change things as soon as you observe something.
Yep. Yeah. You ever want to play a really hilarious but a tiny bit dirty trick on a friend? Ideally one who's like a little bit self-aware, just be like, hey, try something real quick. Just breathe normally for a minute. A lot of people will go, okay. I was breathing normally until you said that. But now, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to observe without changing anything. Anybody notice that as a parent watching your child fence? It's hard to observe without changing anything? Raise your hand if you felt that. As a coach, I feel that, I'm like, you have to, I'm just cheering for you, go, do more, come on, take a break. Anything else you noticed? Big question, did you notice anything, and I won't make you say what, but did you notice anything that you weren't aware of before we started that? Were you like, oh, yeah, I feel the back of my chair. If you want to share, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I noticed that the buckle on my thing was too tight, and I just listened to that.
Yeah.
I must have been in a rush this morning.
I absolutely get it. So there's a couple things that I think are very important about that particular exercise. One of them is that we notice things we're not aware of. There's stuff happening in your body all the time that you're not aware of. You just can't take it all in. But sometimes we need to check in a little bit more to be like, oh, okay, are my fencing shoes on too tight? Are my shoulders up by my ears because I'm so tense? Is something else going on? Oh, okay, I'm going to notice for a moment. And then what's the other really, really important thing? Anybody know? The non-judgmental piece, to just observing things as they are. Because that is how we get from fantasy back down to reality. We leave, how do I want things to be, and we come back to how are things in this moment. I'm going to go 6-0 in pools. Well, right now, I'm 0-3. So maybe I'm not going 6-0. I'm going to fence so well today. Okay, that bout went terribly. Next bout, I'm going to suddenly go to my best fencing. Well, probably not. But can you make it a little bit better than your last bout? Can you fix one mistake? So coming back to the reality we are in and observing it. So important. All right. So next one is sort of an antidote to the a little too sleepy vibe. This one I call activation breathing. Anybody know who Wim Hof is? Incredible. He does like a lot of ice baths and breath work. He's also a little bit crazy, but no judgment. So he does this kind of breathing, this kind of stuff. You could call it cyclic hyperventilation. I just call it activation breathing. Rolls off the tongue a little better. We're going to breathe deep and fast 10 times, and on the 10th one, hold for like 3 to 5 seconds. So, kind of like that. Ready? Go. Hold. Release. Who feels different after that one? Awesome. How do you feel? Lightheaded, yes. Very good. You're doing it right. It won't last. Exactly. Awesome. You're releasing a bit of adrenaline with this one. Anything else? Awesome. Yeah, that covers it, right? A little more awake, a little bit activated. And then finally, we're going to do some box breathing. Who's done box breathing? Who knows what this one is? Incredible. So the way this works, we're going to breathe in, hold, and out, and hold. Well, I say I'm going to have to do the counting, so you're going to do that. So breathe in, nice and steady. You do 4 seconds on each side, like proverbial or metaphorical side of the box, right? In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and then hold for 4. Amazing. In and out, nice and steady. When you hold your breath, though, and this is the tricky part, you ever noticed you kind of close up your throat when you hold your breath? It's like it's the same mechanism as when you swallow, it closes up your windpipe. so you don't accidentally breathe in water. We're gonna not do that with the box breathing. You're gonna breathe in and just leave that throat open as much as you can and try to keep the breath from going in or out. This is practicing breath control. We're gonna come back to why, at least briefly in a moment, because I can't stop myself from talking about that. You ready? You ready?
Yes.
All right, there you go. Just got to make sure you're awake while we're doing all these calming exercises. All right, go ahead and breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. We do 5 of these. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. One more. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And relax. Be normal. What did you notice about that one?
Very hard to follow.
Very hard to what?
Follow.
Hard to follow. Yeah, it's hard to follow a lot of times until you practice it, right? What else? Who was doing anything else as they were doing that? Who was?
There's a lot of focus.
A lot of focus on that, right? It requires so much attention. It's not strenuous. You're not exhausting yourself. I wouldn't say you're even exhausting the part of your brain, your sort of energy of focus. But you're not thinking about a lot of other stuff when you're doing that. Who would like to be able to not think about a lot of other stuff in the middle of a fencing competition? I sure would. And this is a really good technique for that. Anybody know who Kat Holmes is? Yeah? 2-time, now 3-time Olympic, or going to the Olympics for the 3rd time this coming summer, just in a month. She does this pretty much before every bout. So, those, what were the 4 skills? Anybody remember what they were called? First one? Yeah?
The 3-minute mindfulness.
3-minute mindfulness was one of them. Yes, absolutely. 5-second resets? Yes, phenomenal. What else? Activation breathing and box breathing. Yes, amazing. Those are all on my website. Videos of all of those are on my website. If you want a refresher, if you want somebody to follow along, it's just under the resources tab. My website, sharpermindtraining.com. So there's 2 other things I want to offer that are less concrete in the sense of you're breathing this way or you're physically moving this way, but still actions you can take that can help go from that fantasy back to reality. And one of them is you make a plan for what you're going to do on the day of a competition. And again, this is a process I go through with all of my clients. What are your priorities for the day before, the morning before you go to the venue, when you get to the venue, or your kind of your warm-up, for pools, the break between pools and DEs, that's a very important one. Very important time that you can use or you can ignore. And then during DEs. And all of these, just gonna raise your hand if you think those priorities should be stuff that's outside of your control. Raise your hand if you think it should be stuff that's inside of your control. Yeah, there you go. So it could be as simple as, wake up at 6 a.m., leave for the venue at 7. Warm up is, physical warm up, mental warm up. Mental warm up is like I teach a mental warm up as well. But just having that down on paper is very, very helpful. And then the other thing that to me is very related to that is getting very clear on what is this for you, right? Not what is this. Okay, maybe on a good day I can win a Div 1 competition, like Simon Leozniansky. But on a bad day, I can still do good footwork. I can still do some box breathing in between every bout. I can stay hydrated. And I can show up with genuine excitement to be there. Some days you can't show up with genuine excitement, but you can acknowledge that. I have another resource to just go through and be like, hey, am I where I want to be today? Yes? Great. No? Okay. Gonna accept it and move on. I use this every competition. The first time I used it, by the way, was that time in 2022 I mentioned where I got 3rd place. So there's a testimonial on my website. When you go there, it's like, get the Perform Perfect checklist. Then it has the first time I used this, I got 3rd place at a Div 1 NAC for the first time in 10 years. That's me. It's a testimonial for me. But it's true. So, to recap the last 2 things, make a plan and get clear on what is your realm of certainty. What are the things you can say, good day, bad day, whatever day, I can do this. So, to recap the overall everything, expectations and reality often become disconnected. As they become disconnected, that space between them becomes pressure and anxiety. This does not help with fencing. That expectation can come from a lot of different places. It can come internally. It can come, well, in Y12, I won every competition. Now I'm in Y14. I have to win every competition too. No. It can come from the outside world. Like, oh, people saw me win this competition, so now they think I'm going to win another one. Gotta let that, you can't control what other people think. It can come from a coach. Look, you're good in the lesson, you're good in practice, you're going to go and win this competition. Maybe, maybe not. And when we stay in this realm of expectation that's disconnected from reality, we're living in fantasy. So in order to combat this, we find, this line between what we can and cannot control, and we focus on doing what to that side? Controlling that side, staying on that side. And what do we do with this side?
Let it go.
We release it, we let it go. I guess I don't have a green marker anymore. And then if we want to get more specific about some things over here, we focus on the absolute basics of competition. We make sure we're prepared. We have our equipment, we have our water, we have a plan, and we focus on using something that we know is going to help us, which, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. My hammer is mental training. To me, everything is you do your mental skills. That's me. Thank you so much for sitting here for almost an hour and listening to me talk and occasionally raising your hand and participating. And even more so, thank you just for showing up.
Thank you.
I'll be here for a little bit if you have any questions, if you want to come up and talk to me. And I have a few things here if you want to grab a resource or more information about coaching. Still be careful of that chair though.